I'm Jan Środziński and you're watching TVP World Talks, where every word matters. Now, words do matter in politics and diplomacy, especially if these are words of criticism. A group of American Republican senators have criticized Viktor Orbán for his approach to dealings with Russia and Ukraine. Meanwhile, Viktor Orbán is actually in the process of making an attempt to block aid from the European Union to Ukraine, which of course has once again prompted severe criticism, not just from these senators, but generally from those who think that supporting Ukraine is actually a matter of regional security. So what is next for Viktor Orbán and why is he doing this? Well, we'll be examining this and more with our guest today, Veronika Poniscjakova, Deputy Director at the Portsmouth Military Education Team. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So let us begin with a brief summary of what Orbán is actually trying to achieve. This is a massive loan intended to boost Ukraine's reconstruction and its efforts to defend itself against Russia. So is it likely that Orbán will succeed in blocking this? And what is next for this aid program if these efforts are actually at least partially successful when it comes to Orbán's attempts to block it?
So I would start by saying that when this whole package was agreed, there was criticism that there could be issues like this arising in the future. And this is indeed perhaps happening now. That this loan is obviously going to help Ukraine a lot, but unless the rules change from agreeing sanctions in the EU from 6 months period, a 6-month review for sanctions, to 36 months, this is it's very likely to happen that some countries could block this in the future. And this is what is happening now. And it could happen again in the future. This time around, it is Hungary being difficult. Next time around, we could have, for example, Slovakia blocking this process. The United States was insisting on changing this process from 6 months to 36 months because they were aware that the political circumstances could change really quickly. As for a question why Orbán is doing that, there are potentially several explanations for that. The first explanation could be that Orbán is just trying to put pressure on the European Union so that European Union perhaps give some concessions to Hungary. As we all know, Hungary has been the quote-unquote bad boy of the Union for many months.
So, it certainly has been. Before we go into the causes, I just wanted to ask you one more question about this, the basics of how this loan is supposed to work. Because so far it looks a bit as if this was this old Spider-Man meme, like there are two Spider-Men pointing at each other saying, it's you, no, it's you. Because what I understand is that the US says the European Union needs to make its rules more consistent, but then the EU is afraid that the change of guard at the White House potentially could make the US change its approach. So is it really possible to actually make this totally watertight, both on the EU and the US side?
Yes, the whole loan is quite fragile on both fronts, the EU front and also the United States front. The European Union wants to change the process now and make the United States liable to pay their share, basically now, so that they signed their legal part now. And regardless of who is in the White House, whether it's Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, the US administration will have to pay their share. However, if Hungary keeps delaying this process until the US election, after the new president is elected, then Donald Trump could easily use it to appease his voters, and he could just bail out of the package completely. So it would be up to European Union to, well, pay the United States share as well. So this would hurt the European Union the most. And whilst this would obviously hurt Hungary as well, it seems that Orbán is just, he does not care at this point.
Which brings me to my next question as to the causes. Politico has recently suggested that it's not really about the money. It's not like Orbán is trying to save anyone's cash from being spent. It's supposed to be a gift to Donald Trump. Do you think that there is any merit to that particular accusation? Because this is a serious thing, if true.
Absolutely. Well, I would say that about everything else, this is a gift to Vladimir Putin, because he would achieve all of his objectives. The European Union and its members would be extremely dissatisfied that they would have to pay more. So this would sow more disagreement into the Union, and that's one of his strategic objectives, that the European Union does break down. It does break up. So the main victor in this case is Vladimir Putin. And then, of course, Donald Trump, he would have some benefit as well, as to he could show his voters that he hasn't been just joking around in the past couple of months, and he would actually deliver on one of his promises to stop funding Ukraine and come up with his own, I have to say, quote unquote, peace process.
So now, is this a rational thing to go about it from the point of view of Orbán, Trump? I'm asking because there are indications that Ukraine's economy isn't really collapsing, as some people are suggesting. It is actually, given the situation Ukraine has found itself in rude health. I mean, there is economic growth, there is monetary reserves, inflation is being kept in check. Some have said, well, given this is a country at war, this is fantastic. And this could also represent a substantial investment for countries helping Ukraine. So would you say that this is purely a political calculation and there is no merit when it comes to the economic side of things, i.e. Trump suggesting this would not be money well spent, we shouldn't be spending it?
I don't think Donald Trump necessarily has a point. I do not. So in terms of economy, I don't think we can just look at it short term. We also have to look at it long term, that the war is very likely to carry on for several years. That's why Ukraine does need this money to carry on and withhold the Russian aggression for years to come. And they really do this money, especially if Donald Trump does find his way back to the office. But in terms of more political things, affairs, it is all about messaging as well. It's not just the economy, it's all about showing the continued support for Ukraine and the Western world, including the United States and the European Union. They have to stand together and show Putin that they are behind Ukraine no matter what, and they just cannot keep bickering amongst themselves.
This is a particularly compelling argument, given that Trump often emphasizes the need to stand up to China. What would abandoning Ukraine do to the US policy in the Far East and to the US credibility vis-à-vis, for example, Taiwan? If China sees the US abandoning Ukraine, wouldn't think that perhaps it might be the perfect window of opportunity to annex Taiwan, because the US once again may cave in?
When it comes to Taiwan, I'm very cynical. I don't think this is a question of if. I think this is just a question of when. So I do believe that the People's Republic of China is going to take over Taiwan. And definitely what happens in Ukraine, it does have repercussions on all around the world, including in the Asia-Pacific region. And it would set a precedent. If the United States and the rest of the world, if they're not fighting if they're not willing to fight for international law and the idea of sovereignty of Ukraine, then they're very not likely to do so in Taiwan as well. Having said that, the circumstances are slightly different. From Trump's perspective, Ukraine is, he doesn't see the economic benefits of helping Ukraine. On the other hand, Taiwan is very strategic. If you look at the role of microprocessors, microchips, these are absolutely vital to the world economy, including the US one. And whilst the United States does not have legal obligation to authorize military force to help Taiwan. Under the Taiwan Act, they have a legal obligation to help them, but it does not provide details as to what kind of form this aid should take. They have more at stake when it comes to Taiwan than when we talk about Ukraine.
So it's always about political calculation, also about principles and about the future of the respective regions. Veronika Poniscjakova was our guest today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And I'm Miloš Rovnícky. You're watching TVP World. Please stay with us. Right now, the next thing is news, latest, coming up with Claudia Czerwińska. So please stay with us here.